are alive.
I know there's normally a little delay, so we'll wait for a few more people to join us. I think we had a few waiting, so hello and welcome. Make yourselves known in the chat in case you don't know what you're watching. My name's Catherine Bennett and this is Catholic Unscripted, and he is
Mark Lambert.
And we're waiting on, hopefully, Gavin Ashenden, who will join us as soon as he's able. But this is going to be a weekly thing, isn't it, Mark? We're going to do our very best, at least.
Yeah, let's hope so. It shouldn't be too difficult, should it, to do it regularly?
You'd think not, so we'll give it our best shot. We're going to go for a Tuesday at 7:30. We've got, obviously, 3 schedules to manage, so it might be 2 of us sometimes, it might be 3 of us other times, or a variation on that. But at 7:30 on Tuesdays, join us here. And post in the comments anything you'd like to share with us, and also any questions you would like to ask. So it's a kind of weekly roundup and catch up with one another and with you. Well, the first thing we want to do, Mark, is to shout from the rooftops about our new website, our shiny new website. So let me bring that up. And if you want to, while I'm doing that, if you just want to tell people what they can do.
Well, so if anyone doesn't know, we have gone on about it quite a lot. Oh, is that Gavin? Gavin's here.
He's here.
Hi, Gavin.
Hey, here. Gavin's arrived, everybody. He's doing that kind of cool thing where you arrive late to a party and you're the coolest of the 3.
Never apologise, never explain. Hello, guys, I'm here.
Okay, well, you're very welcome. It's great to have you. We've started, so we've got a few people in at the moment. As I said, keep your comments coming. This is going to be a weekly Tuesday evening roundup to catch up with one another, to see what's going on, and also with you, our viewers. And we were just going to share news of our new site.
Yeah, so as I was saying, we have been working hard to change our website to make it more user-friendly, basically. We were using the Wix platform before, and we've moved over to Substack, which, you know, we've had some messages and stuff from people who are going, oh, I can't access the stuff behind the paywall. So with the migration so everyone who was paying to be a member is a member on the new website, and we've just finished the migrations this evening. So everyone should be good to go to access all the stuff. Which is very exciting. We've already started posting new stuff on there. I certainly intend to post as often as I can, you know, maybe a couple of times a day if there's interesting breaking news. And if you check out the Substack now, you'll see that Catherine has done a brilliant article on Lily Allen's horrendous laughing at the amount of abortions that she's had. Which is really good and well worth looking at. And then you can see I'm posting church news. So there was this terrible story today about Richard Umbers, who's a brilliant, really good bishop from New Zealand in Sydney, Australia, who has some private. So it's not a criminal report. The police aren't
been served with a civil claim, but it's a little bit of a non-story, and it's a story, isn't it? Because on the one hand, there's no criminal allegations, and it hasn't triggered canonical proceedings. So you've written all about this, but maybe tell people who are hearing news about Bishop Umbers, who's a good bishop in Australia, and are thinking, "What's this?" But in a sense, there's nothing to report, but you reported anyway.
Well, I think there is something to report because he's stepped down. Yeah. So Umbers was born in Auckland in New Zealand in 1971. So he's the same age as me. Or maybe I shouldn't reveal that. But anyway, he trained at Opus Dei Seminary in Rome, and he was ordained in 2002. And he was appointed an auxiliary of Sydney in 2016. So he was sort of famous because he was Australia's youngest bishop. And he built this brilliant reputation for using memes and social media to sort of reach out to young audiences. So it's terrible to hear that he's had to step aside from public ministry while this is looked into, which is a good thing because this is the new proactive approach of the church that we're seeing. So I'll just hope and pray that he's exonerated quickly and can get back to his day job.
Yeah, I hope so. And Mark, you can count on Mark. We've just pulled up the website there to show you the new website, and Mark will be posting on there frequently, as will myself and Gavin, and some contributors too, some brilliant contributors who you may have seen just starting to write for us on our old site, but will be writing more frequently on our new site. So you'll hear from brilliant Catholic minds such as Sebastian Morello. We've got some contributions from Larry Chapp. We'll have a few other names. Some of the people that we have spoken to on our videos, you will then see them contributing in terms of articles. So if you haven't yet, and you've been a bit confused over the past over the past number of months when we've talked about joining the channel or picking up a membership, and you think, I don't know what they mean, let's make it really clear. We've got this new Substack website, and on here we're going to post all our articles. Okay, every article, what used to be blogs on the old website, and they're going to be from a variety of brilliant Orthodox Catholic writers. So no nonsense, no messing around, no compromise, and you will get access to absolutely everything with a membership, a paid membership to that site. And it's just a few quid a month, or you can choose annually if you prefer. And then you get everything. Then you get access to absolutely everything on there. Any exclusive videos, any exclusive podcasts, any written content. So do visit that website and pick up a subscription to read all those brilliant reports. It takes a bit of doing, doesn't it, Mark? It takes quite a bit of work. We do devote time to doing some planning, some writing, some researching. And so we thank you for your contributions to support what we're doing. Thank you. So we've got some people here. Yeah, I hope so.
We've got a video to go up with Theo.
We've got a video. Yeah, we've got a video with Theo waiting in the can, and that's going to go up in the next couple of days. So look out for that, and many others besides. So there's lots of exciting things coming up, and you can find out about all of them on our new website. Welcome, Gavin, who's just joined us a little late to the party, but very, very welcome. And it's always exciting to make an entrance, isn't it, Gavin? And you're just back from Canterbury, which is very exciting because the papal nuncio to Great Britain has celebrated Mass in Canterbury Cathedral in honour of St. Thomas a Becket. And some people think this is the first time in hundreds of years. There is actually a Mass every year, but it's special this year because A, Gavin Ashenden was speaking there. That's the most special thing. And secondly, the apostolic nuncio was there, the papal nuncio. So tell us about your couple of days away in Canterbury, Gavin.
Okay, you'll need to stop me because I'm suffering from a mental breakdown that I'm to recover from, and I don't want to use this as group therapy without permission or constraint. So,
you're amongst friends.
So, we're in danger of you asking a question and having me go on for 20 minutes without drawing breath. So please, stop me and I'll try and... So first of all, a couple of facts, then the therapy, then some more facts. So the facts are that you're quite right. The local parish, by the local Roman Catholic parish by the cathedral, organizes the feast of the translation of Thomas a Becket's relics. So Thomas a Becket was kept down in the crypt for about 80 years in a coffin, and they were very concerned that Henry II would want to dig him up and get rid of his body. And because Henry, I've been learning all about this because I had to give a lecture on it. Henry was a really mean, evil man. And the truth of the relationship between Henry and Thomas is nothing like the popular films that have been around. So then finally, after 80 years, the monks put Becket at the top of the cathedral, just behind the high altar, and built the most incredible, magnificent shrine. And so this feast day yesterday celebrates the day that moved. Now that's the celebrations are run by the local Roman Catholic parish, who have two relics of St. Thomas and are just outside the walls. And part of my propagandization as I grew up was I had no idea it was a Catholic church. I didn't know it was there. I didn't know there was one in Canterbury. I didn't know if there was one, where it was. I walked by it every day. And for the first time in my life, yesterday, I went into it and was just amazed at the clergy, the place, the beauty, the atmosphere. We kissed the relics. It was fantastic. Meanwhile, although they've arranged for a Catholic mass to be held in the cathedral, which is a very, very, very big thing. It's like a reconsecration of a building that, and Canterbury Cathedral has been wrecked. They've had these terrible discos with kids drinking and gyrating and turning into a nightclub. So the question as to its kind of holiness or desecrated status is a live one, and a number of people felt that this mass that we had, which was so beautiful, so full of scores of Catholic priests and the papal nuncio, was a kind of almost like a reconsecration of the place. It was very powerful. The atmosphere was just so different, and I stood there, and I met Edward Pentin. This is why you're gonna have to stop me because there's so much to say. Edward is a friend of mine. Edward was like me at the school built around the cathedral, but about 10 years later, which is why he looks so much younger and fresher than me. And as I didn't know he was going to be there, and as I came out enjoying my VIP status because I'd been given a lecture and getting a sort of free seat near the front, Edward shouted out from the queue, clearly wanting to have some help getting in because the crowd was huge. So he went in, and he and I together sat there, and we were both confirmed as Anglican kids by the Archbishop of Canterbury at the high altar when we were about 15 different occasions, but the same place. And we were within 10 feet of it, and suddenly the place had become Catholic. Catholic priests, Catholic bishops, Catholic papal nuncio, Catholic music, and it was like putting a heart back into a corpse. It was the owner of the vineyard is back and means business. It was just so healing. And then at the end we sang the Salve Regina, and I looked round and I realized there's nothing of Our Lady there in this Anglican. They've stripped everything about. I wouldn't know where to look for an image, a window, there are no statues there. There's nothing there. So, however, we sang the Salve Regina, and in fact, one of the things I was doing was so they'd combined a Vatican cricket team tour, very holy event, and on the back of the cricket team, they were bringing some pilgrims, and as well as the papal nuncio, a kind of smorgasbord of Catholic stuff. And they asked me to give the pilgrims and the Catholic cricket team a tour of the cathedral. So we went in at 11 o'clock in the morning, and just then it's the habit of people in Anglican cathedrals often to stop on the hour and quite rightly say, well, hello, tourists, we're going to take 30 seconds to pray. So this rather, I don't know, bureaucratic voice said it's 11 o'clock, we're going to say some prayers, everyone stop, we all stopped. They then said a few anodyne prayers and ended up with the Our Father. So I said to the team, who are made up of seminarians and priests, I should say, and they go, guys, how do you feel about singing the Lord's Prayer in Latin and letting them know we're back? And they went, yes, let's do it. So as soon as it finished, we 30, 40 of us struck up Pater Noster, qui es in celis, and the cathedral rang with it. And all the Anglicans went, what's that? Who's that? Why is that happening? And I'm afraid it's one of the occasions when I throw the traces over and run the risk of misbehaving. So that was in the day, but in the evening we had this incredible mass. You'll see it on Twitter. It's online. EWTN have broadcasted, and I just have to say, it was like a kind of a jigsaw that's been spoilt, being put back together again. And there's an extra piece of personal history I'd like to add, but I ought to stop there in case I just take up too much time. Anyway,
no, come on. We love some personal history. We've got a few people just joining us. We've got some people just joining now. They haven't been here since the beginning. If you have just joined, you're joining us live. We're going to do a live every Tuesday, 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. London time. So I know not everyone's in London, so based on London time. Remember, that will be different summer and winter, so look at the hour change. But London time, you're very welcome. Do ask questions, do make your comments. But we're going back to Gavin, who's been telling us about his time at Canterbury Cathedral for this wonderful mass with the Apostolic Nuncio to Great Britain, and singing the Paternoster, leading everyone in the Salve Regina at this stolen, I tell you. Thank you, Cigar Mode. We've brought this up. When do we get it back? So now for the personal anecdote.
So the personal anecdote is that they said, well, you'll be staying in a hotel in the precincts. And I said, well, but there isn't a hotel in the precincts. So I don't understand that. And I mean, there just isn't one. It's very full of buildings. Anyway, they said, drive in there. You can't drive in there. In my day, you could never drive a car in the precinct, but drive in there, go to the hotel. So I arrived and I went to the hotel, and there is a hotel there now. And I stopped dead in my tracks. And here's the reason. So a bit of personal history, and I hope it'll make you laugh. In about 2001, I was headhunted to go and apply for a new job. The dean had built a new theological center, and it was destined to become the Anglican Center for Anglican Communion theological training around the world. And they were going to bring in all the bishops from America and Africa, and they wanted a director of the institute to run it and to coordinate Anglican theology across the world. And I was headhunted and asked to apply. And after a fairly rigorous interviewing process, I was given the job. And I'd always wanted to go back there, and you become canon theologian of Canterbury Cathedral, and you run this international center. And I was just...
The only downside is you have to be an Anglican.
Yeah, at the time that wasn't...
No, it was all right at the time.
Yeah. Being, but allow things to develop in the fullness of time. Anyway, at the time I was absolutely thrilled, and so to be asked to apply, fantastic. To get the job, amazing. So rigorous interviews, a really tricky job. As it happened, there was one of those. You probably know that Anglican chapters often found themselves in political difficulties with feuds and rebelling against the dean. And this particular dean, who'd built this amazing centre, had a split chapter. It was kind of 6-5 and tricky local politics. Anyway, they said, we'll appoint you. So I went to bed that night just hugging myself with delight. I'm back at Canterbury where I grew up, and I love it, and I'll get to live amongst the stones and worship in the cathedral every day and be a canon theologian at the cathedral. How lucky am I? And the next morning, the Archdeacon of Canterbury, who chaired the interviewing panel, knocked on the job and said, hi, Gavin, how'd you sleep? Oh, thank you very much. Look, I've got some fresh developments. I said, oh, how fresh? What developments? He said, well, we offered you the job and you accepted it. Yes. I said, absolutely, I'm very pleased. Well, we're going to withdraw it. I said, but I beg your pardon. Yes, I'm very sorry. I know we hope you won't go and see lawyers, and we know this is irregular, but... and I said, well, why? I said, the dean had nightmares last night. He slept very badly, and he's decided he's not altogether sure he can rely on you in the staff war in the chapter. So, but look, don't worry. The dean is going to retire in 6 months' time. We're going to re-advertise, do it again. The job's yours, and just don't accept anything else. So, just stay stum. They always say stay stum, and then of course they do. BBC did that when something similar happened there. Anyway, so I stayed stum. I waited. The Archdeacon of Canterbury then became the Bishop of Oxford, and nothing happened, and nothing happened. And now the interesting thing is, so nothing ever happened. This hotel was my centre, and it clearly it had failed. I mean, the whole project never happened. God knows why, but they sold it. It had become a hotel. And so the first time I was back since then, I walked into the center that I thought I was destined to run, with a room on the second floor, room 214, which should have been full of African bishops I was training, and was now me as a lay Catholic giving a lecture on St. Thomas and the culture wars. And I sat there looking out the window with my head throbbing, thinking, well, this is indeed a God of surprises. Who would have thought it? And then to go into the cathedral and have the whole thing, if you like, set and sealed with this Catholic mass where everything came together. And I thought, well, Lord, it looked like my life was a mess and it wasn't what I wanted, but I couldn't have asked you for anything more than to be standing here with my friend Edward Pentin, also a Catholic now, singing the Salve Regina and having the Mass, the true presence of Jesus brought back into the reliquary, and celebrating the life of St. Thomas, whom I had grown to love as a child in the cathedral and had never stopped invoking his prayers. So it was, I'm still kind of calming down and trying to get my brain into a more sensible and sane place as the God of surprises plays, works out his narrative once more.
He is a God of surprises, and he knew, of course, all along that you'd end up doing Catholic Unscripted with us two. So there's no way
my career, the peak,
yeah,
the peak
exactly.
of it. Forget Canterbury Cathedral. Forget the Queen. You're going to work with Katherine and Mark. Oh, ever eat your hearts out, Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth.
Exactly. When you say you had rigorous interrogation for that job, was it things like, do you like women priests and homosexuals?
No, the trick was going to be that the Anglican communion is really where the Anglicans are. I mean, they claim they're a communion of 80 million people, which is exaggerated. But essentially, Anglicans are very strong in Africa. But there's lots of different kinds of Anglicans in Africa. But the rich Anglicans are all in America. And the rich Anglicans in America don't particularly like the Anglicans in England, and they don't particularly like the Anglicans in Africa, and the ones in Australasia are a separate group as well. And so there are, through these dioceses and archdioceses, a whole palette of different theological preferences and different churchmanship. Some are Catholic, some are very evangelical, and anyone who's going to be asked to train bishops from across different continents, different churchmanships, different theologies is going to have to show a certain kind of theological versatility. And so what they were really wanting to make sure was I sufficiently versatile? What they didn't know was I was going to chuck the whole project in and become a Catholic and return to the church Jesus had founded, and about time too.
Hooray! That deserves a very English hooray, I think. Isn't Gavin lovely from Monica? Yes, he is, Monica. We agree.
He's
lovely.
He's a bit shaky in the head, Monica, just at the moment. He's trying to hold on. I'm taking the medicine, and the jitters are beginning to calm down.
And of course, I brought this up earlier while you were in full flow. God smited them, Gavin, because they didn't pick you. There we go.
Well, I did wonder. I thought I could have made a success of this. This would have been a humming, world-famous theological center, but you chose to ignore me. Now look what happened. No, I played all that out of my head and then thought, nah, I'd have screwed it up. The whole project was bust. That's why I'm an Anglican. That's why I'm no longer an Anglican. I'm a Catholic.
You got that right in the end. Well done.
I told you my brain's not working.
Right, those of you joining now or joining in the last few, no, they're not. Is that Lindsay? Sorry, they're not new glasses. I have to switch between long-sighted and now at that age where I have to switch between my very exciting tune in for Catherine's glasses update and my reading glasses. We're doing a live. The plan is, please God, that we're going to be living every Tuesday, 7:30 to 8:30 London time. So wherever you are in the world, tune in. We hope to be a trio. Occasionally we might be a duo depending on schedules, but either way we hope to be live with you every Tuesday. So this is the first of many, just testing it out and giving you a regular time slot. And the idea is that we catch up like this, hear stories like Gavin's wonderful little personal anecdotes, and Mark will tell us about whatever he wants. He might want to tell you about his holidays or his childhood, but often he'll talk about church news, and then we answer your questions. But there's no questions. There's just some lovely comments saying how lovely you are, Gavin, and where people are calling in from or tuning in from. So, and a comment about varifocals. So thank you for your concern over my eyesight. -7, if that means anything to anyone. Blind as a bat. So there we are. Hello to... Who's this? Someone's in Mexico.
We have American nuns in.
Hello.
At the very beginning, we have American nuns. I'm very excited about being privileged with American nuns.
American nuns. We now have a question. Has Mark started working out for this year's sharp?
I'm always working out. Working out how not to do it.
Yeah. Well, Gavin's going to be joining me on the next one, and if we can twist Mark's arm, so will he.
At the
Won't you,
moment,
Gav?
well, I got knocked off my motorbike in for Christmas, and I'm having trouble getting my legs working again. So it will be a miracle if it happens. But then we believe in miracles, so let's see.
We do. And somebody's just asked, maybe hasn't followed us has not followed us for the longest time. Some people I know joined us right at the beginning, which was just over 3 years ago, I think, when we first started our little conversations, and said, is there a video that tells the story for the origin of our coming together? But Gavin, you might want to comment on this. Is there a story to be told of us, of Catholic Unscripted?
We're going to write a book. We're planning a book that gives our collective autobiography, and it involves the cradle Catholic, that's Mark drinking in the middle, and it involves the contrite Catholic, that's Katherine, who went a-gothing and then saw the error of her ways, and then it involves the converted Catholic, the schismatic heretic who had to come home finally. So that's what we're trying to write. But Katherine, were you asking for a prompt about how we got together?
Not really. I was hoping you'd talk about the book, because we're trying to, in our spare moments.
I picked it up. Hooray. Good. I thought so. Right.
In our spare moments, we're trying to get this written. So when we get time, we'll get that over to you and keep, because the stories are more detailed than Gavin's just given, and some people are interested in them. So that's coming out. Keep an eye on. Well, we're just going to sit here and chat until we get a few more questions. Mark, what's been happening in either your world that's worth mentioning or the Catholic world?
Well, I don't know if you saw this piece that a lot of people have liked on Substack, which is about the fact that Pope Leo has returned to Castello Gandolfo, which Pope Francis didn't do, basically. But almost more excitingly, so like the fact that he's gone back there is really exciting for the people, because there was a bit of a, what's the word? The tourists basically didn't come back to Castel Gandolfo, which is a little town above Rome, because Pope Francis wasn't going there. So they had a bit of an economic downturn, and they're overjoyed to see him come back. But the idea is that there's this interview that's been given by one of the Pope's closest friends that says that he's planning on writing an encyclical while he's there, and also figuring out his curial moves. So that there's one of the rumors is that this encyclical will be something that Francis wrote on the poor. So, but we all need to pray that that isn't the case. You never know; he might change his mind about that. But hopefully, it will be something that we can get excited about reading. But also, there's this idea that he's going to start changing around the Curia. That this is his time to start changing around the Curia, and he's thinking about who. So there was an interview earlier on in the week with Tucho Fernandez, who's the head of the unbelievably head of the dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith, and he said that nothing's going to change with Fiducia Supplicans. That the document's there to stay. But that's just basically what would you expect him to say, really? Let's wait and see what Pope Leo does. I think Tucho might get a shock. Hopefully he'll be for the chop when he comes back from holiday.
Well, of course, Tucho was part of this whole deception that took place over Fiducia Supplicans. I mean, he must have been part of the inner circle, who knew perfectly well that the bishops had been consulted. The bishops said, 90% of them said, we love the Latin Mass. There's nothing wrong with
Traditionis Custodes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Of course, I'll go back into my book.
We've moved on to the gay blessings, but you're right.
That's what he was asked about. Yeah, that's what he spoke about. Tucho in the interview was the gay blessings thing, which isn't gay blessings, obviously. So
no, it's not gay blessings, but it's yeah. Unless James Martin does it,
confusing.
In which case it is.
Then it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see that one from Sister? There's a sister. Everyone.
So sister, oh, sorry. Sorry, sister. Mea culpa.
I can talk to that a little bit.
Yeah.
So the Ordinariate here, Sister Elizabeth, has just got a new bishop, which we've commented on before. And how's it doing? I don't know. I wouldn't say it's doing very, very well, and I'd say that is largely because it's kind of not been supported very well, unfortunately, from the Catholic side of things. So I would imagine that the Ordinariate priests feel a bit let down and not welcomed the way that they should have been, which is a great disappointment. The other thing is that the Ordinariate here seems to be, so this is from my Catholic insider perspective, it seems to be largely about clergy and not about laity. So there's a lot of clergy and not a lot of laity, if you know what I mean. So it seems to be a club for the clergy. So I don't know. I don't. It's not thriving as well as I'd like it to. Let's put it that. There's Bishop David Waller, who's from my diocese, unbelievably.
Yeah, appointed bishop must have been about this time last year, or about 6. I don't know. I've lost track of time, but I know we did a video about that, so that will be back in the back catalogue of Catholic Unscripted. If you can dig around there, you'll find it. So that's the Ordinariate, Sister Elizabeth. Pray for us. We've had a few comments. We've questions and comments. New synodality drop from Rome.
Yeah. Okay. So this was Sister Natalie Beckhart, who's the Undersecretary for the General Secretariat of the Synod of Bishops, and she's basically announced that they've issued a new document, the Synod on, whatever it is, the synodality nonsensical place where they all talk at a completely different language, and it's called Pathways for the Implementation Phase of the Synod, and basically it's supposed to be about the realization of synodality within local churches and the exchange of gifts amongst them, and it's just the usual nonsense, really. I can't wait to see what happens to synodality, because obviously Pope Leo has been very careful to mention it a lot of times, but he seems to be changing what the definition of it is. And if the definition of synodality is what it always was in the church, post Vatican II, I think it was Paul VI sort of started this idea of having a synod where you got all the bishops together and they talked and helped the Pope to deal with some difficult problem in the church, giving their perspectives from all the different places. But Pope Francis very much seemed to want to change it into much more like the Anglican version of the General Synod, where people come along and vote on doctrine and decide whether things that have always been true are still true. Maybe they're not true anymore according to that version of synodality. And that's really what we've been really concerned about. But if it does change to be more in line with, okay, we can talk about things, but doctrine, the deposit of faith doesn't change, then hopefully we've got nothing to fear from it in the future. And it will be very interesting to see, again, people like Sister Natalie and the odious Cardinal Grech. Hopefully they will disappear. I'm hopeful that they will. Grech especially is really bad. And he was only really made a cardinal because he did Francis a favour and stabbed his mate in the back. So, hopefully that will be the end of him.
I'd like to say a few words about synodality, if I may. So,
absolutely. It's all about talking, Gav.
Yeah. It's a big tent here, Gav.
We're all listening. You're in safe company now.
Yes, this is not going anywhere I don't know about. as if it's going to the world. So Pope Francis, God help him, was obviously trying to use synodality as a way of changing the theological culture within the church by gathering together politically motivated lay people and selected clergy to add weight to this new enculturation of progressive values. And it was following the path that the Anglican Church did. It was very clear. But so that's a way of doing synodality, and it was reprehensible and would only have had one disastrous end: the Protestantization of the church and the dilution of Catholic theology, and the idea that Catholic doctrine could be driven by political decisions from uncatechized people, which was what the outcome was going to be. However, that isn't the only way you can do synodality. And if I can be indelicate enough to say that, remembering some of the criticisms of the Catholic Church from the outside, one of the things that people said was it was a trifle clericalized. It was really run by the clergy, who basically didn't consult the laity. And was there a role for the laity in the way in which the church expressed itself? And there are areas in which the laity are very important indeed. And for example, evangelism is one of them. If you're going to look for a fresh period of evangelization, you can't do it. Father can't do it all. He's going to have to gather the laity around him and first of all inspire them, and then teach them and help them. It's a kind of evangelization is essentially, in practice, something of a lay exercise. It's the whole business of pastoral care. There's some absolutely wonderful priests who are sacrificial and magnificent in their skills, but there are other congregations where pastoral care doesn't happen very much, and it's very difficult for the laity to know what they can do about it, because there aren't any forums where they can say, look, excuse me, there's room for improvement here. There's also the whole question of how you support clergy, and whether or not the laity are using all their gifts and their insight into supporting clergy. It happens, of course, from the bishop, and there's a strong tradition of the bishop drawing his priests around him as a form of clerical counsel. But support of the clergy also has to take place from below, and there need to be places where these things can at least be talked about. So in terms of refreshing the church in evangelization and pastoral care, of course there's a role for some kind of mutual consultation, and in that case synodality is a context in which it could, with imagination and prayer and bringing together the right skills, take place. It doesn't have to be the politicization and that Pope Francis envisaged. So I'm very hopeful that Pope Leo may be sitting back and thinking, well, let's reclaim the word in the process and see if it can be turned into a gift for the church instead of a stalking horse for progressive culture.
I'll just take the opportunity before we move on to pull up again this article Mark mentioned. I've just written a letter to Lily Allen, a famous pop star, or she was 20 years ago in the UK. And she's just come out recently and commented on having lots of abortions in a really casual way. And at the end of that, I do a sort of modernized version of the letter to Diognetes. So that might be a bit amusing for some of you. What would it look like if the Bishops' Conference of our day wrote to Lily, and it begins, "Most excellent Lily, I see that you deeply desire to learn how Christians worship their God in 2025. So do check that out, because as we've just been saying, Mark was talking about the development of doctrine. It's ridiculous to think that, this famous line from Peter Kreeft, which I always like, which is, God, Protestants accuse Catholics of having too much authority, and he says we have less than you because God gave us the mail and to deliver intact, not to edit. We don't edit God's mail, we just deliver it intact. So there's no authority claimed except the authority of Christ. But for those who mess around and change and have meetings and councils, synodality, and then come up with the idea that maybe now we can have women priests, even though we couldn't 100 years ago. It's 200, 300. So take a look at that. That's on the website. Right.
Question for you, I think, Catherine.
Well, it's for all of us, isn't it? Well, I mean, Gavin hopes to go. We hope maybe one day, please God, we might even get there as a trio and do a little pilgrimage there. But I'm just back from Lourdes, and we talked about this on our Lourdes broadcast, because on the one hand, it is all that you fear it is it seems, in this comment, which is it is commercialized, and there's a lot of tat, and there's a lot of people making a few bucks on Our Lady's apparition to St. Bernadette. But absolutely, I would say without hesitation, do go, because just accept that.
Oh, we've lost her. Well, I think that really I don't know where she's gone, but hopefully she'll be back. Oh, there she is. You're back. Oh, no. There you go.
Live, folks. Yeah, so I would say do go. But Mark's the expert. He's been going for years, man and boy, and I'm sure he'd agree, wouldn't you, Mark?
Well, I completely love the place. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I love the tat, really. I love the winking Jesus.
I must admit, we got a lot of tat. Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, I picked up 5 Lourdes postcards, and I thought, when I see you guys next in person, let's get down, write a little note, and get those off to some of our members. We haven't worked out quite how, but we'll send something out, a little postcard from Lourdes. So, yeah, it's all wonderful and definitely well worth a visit.
I thought there's another question there. Why are deacons such a big deal in the Catholic Church? We have a deaconite coming up, and it's being treated like an ordination, she goes on to say down there, Heather. Well,
it is an ordination.
Yeah, exactly. I suppose it depends whether it's a transitional deacon or a permanent deacon, but there are 3 kinds of ordination in the Catholic Church, Heather. There is deacon, priest, and bishop. So there is a 3-fold ordination, and deacon is the first kind of ordination. And if you're a priest, you're ordained a deacon, what's called a transitional deacon, on your way to the priesthood. So it is kind of a big deal, and it is a bit like, and it is an ordination. So hope that explains that one.
Very good. We've got 15 minutes. We're going to be with you live every Tuesday, 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. UK time. Gavin, I've realised that my accidental exit has put you in the middle.
The moorings of my sanity were never very strong at the very beginning of the podcast. I'm now they're loosening by the second. Anyway, I'll try and adjust.
We've got a question about our accents. Could you explain for those? Sorry, I'll say that again. Can you explain for those of us across the pond the difference in your accents? Well, I would say Mark and I are estuary, what's called estuary, which is along the Thames, and Gavin has received pronunciation. So he's an old posho, and we are common as muck. Does that help?
Well said. That's perfect.
Do they use common in America?
No, they don't really have the class.
They don't have class.
Hangovers that we do.
They kind of do. There's a downtown New Yorker is not the same as a Long Island. Long Islander. So
that's about money, not class.
Well, that's
yeah, it's about money. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but yes.
Gavin, you see, Gavin could be poor as a church mouse, but still
I'm as poor as a church mouse.
Yeah. Well, it just happens to be, but still
posher than us.
But still be able to look. Yeah. Still be able to look down on us. Which we'll humbly accept.
I only ever look up to you both. First of all, I'm a man of immense humility, and secondly, we are
like Trump.
Secondly, he woke up and ate his Rice Krispies.
Just like Trump, pretty much like Trump.
Yeah, I'm from a place called Hertfordshire, which is a home county. So you have London, which is the capital, and then you have a few counties just around the capital. And they're called home counties. And Mark is from, well, you're from East London, but you're living in Essex, which is just bordering London as well.
Basically, we're My Fair Lady, and I'm Professor Higgins, and Catherine is Liza Doolittle, and I've been trying to persuade her to flatten out those vowels. I'm not getting very far. Very impressed why you didn't drop the H in Hertfordshire. That was very good. Congratulations.
Hertfordshire?
Coming on nicely. Hertfordshire.
You see, Mark would have dropped the H. So I think we go like this. Like Gavin, me, Mark.
What we could do, of course, is do that Monty Python skit. I can go tall and Mark can. I look down on him and he looks down on me. That's the English class. That's it. I look down on him.
We might have to play out with that one. Right, have a look for some more questions. I mean, have a look.
I was going to say you drop. I heard you. I thought you were doing it on purpose anyway.
While let me see if I can bring that up.
Yes. Well, meanwhile, so yes, although the class differences in England are becoming more about money. We're losing the old sense and we're becoming Americanized in terms of the way things happen.
That's only in your dreams, I reckon. The
What's
crazy
that?
Englishman says, where in East London I come from? The Isle of Dogs. Do you know where that is?
Isle of Dogs. I can't do it.
Yes. The dogs.
Yes. Hertford, Hereford, and Hampshire. Hurricanes hardly happen. Very good. Wonderful quote. We'll get Catherine singing The Rain of Spain in a minute.
I will sing it. There we go. This is your... I'm doing... Look, because Gavin's... Look, here. Here we go.
I have 3 children, Jeremy, Alison, and Jane. My wife and I have been married for 8 years.
I have 2 children, Derek and Doreen. My wife and I have been married for 6 years.
I have 8 children. Peter, Rita, Anita, Sandra, Dawn, Clint, Rock, and Elvis.
That's Mark.
My wife and I are not married.
My wife is on several committees, runs the local opera group, and is secretary of the bridge. We stopped having children when we
found out what was causing it.
And so it goes on. It's amusing. I look down on him, he looks down on me, and you get a little insight into the English class system. There we go.
As it was.
Yeah, you're right. It is changing. It is becoming a bit more. We have the sort of nouveau riche. So you've got plumbers and electricians are actually earning a lot of money, and probably they're materially very well off. I don't know if you've got any plumbers in the house. Make yourself known, and don't forget to donate at catholicunscripted.com. But then you've got your academics and others who are probably not earning a lot, but would be considered, in the class, in looking at the old class system. Right, that's posh, Mark. There you go.
Yeah, Mary, it was about, it might be posh now, but I'll tell you what, it wasn't about 40 years ago when I was there. It wasn't posh.
Couldn't afford to live there now.
No, yeah.
It's really expensive.
Absolutely.
Posh plumbers. There we go. Yeah, why not? Anything goes now. If a boy can become a girl, you can have some posh plumbers. Sure.
It's vets now, I think, isn't it? Like, you know, they're even considering taking legal action against vets in the UK. There's that brilliant sketch, you know, oh, what seems to be the invoice? I mean, the problem.
Well, we need to make a distinction between veterinarians and vets, American
Oh,
soldiers.
yeah. Good
It means
point.
two things in American and English.
Yeah, we mean the people who look after animals, who give animals expensive medicine. We mean them. Who tell you that your dog absolutely must have his rear left upper canine removed for essential reasons, and it will cost you £6,000.
Well, I'm a bit disappointed that no one is talking about any of the brilliant videos that we've put up this week. We've really had some good stuff, haven't we?
We have.
The sort of Anscombe bioethics thing that you guys did. How did that go? Because it was got quite in depth in the end, didn't it?
Yeah, that was quite funny.
We wound Catherine up and let her go, and the academics thought they were dealing with a bimbo and discovered they were actually dealing with a woman with a brain the size of a planet. And Catherine was formidable. And I had people writing into me saying, I had no idea that Catherine had a head so stacked full of working brains. And so they were.
It's the beauty that masks it.
Doesn't say much for the 375 episodes we've done, does it?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we're all extremely humble.
She's got a brain.
we don't unleash the full force of our personalities here. But actually, there were two different academics. They had two different things to say, and Catherine interviewed them. It was a lovely moment when Catherine lectured one of them on Aquinas and some of the ethical implications of Aquinas, and the academic looked very surprised and couldn't keep up with Catherine. So I enjoyed watching that. That was great fun. And then I tried to take on, in order to compete with Catherine, I tried to take on the next academic and show off a bit. And sadly, I failed a little. I tried to redefine what philosophy and theology meant and didn't get very far. But I was just trying to keep up with my learned colleague here.
No, you won't. Always be aware when you get a compliment from Gavin and make sure it's not backhanded. But yeah, it was a really interesting conversation, and we did get in the weeds a bit. And Anthony McCarthy is a friend of mine, so I know him outside of the conversation we had online, and catch up with him from time to time in London. He's a great guy and he's a good Catholic man, but I think we just got caught up in philosophy and theology. And at the end of the day, we all believe the same thing. Everything comes from God, and we depend on God for everything. But I think the problem we have is that both the professor and Dr. Anthony McCarthy are living in the world as it is now, and are trying to make headway in the world it is now. And we can, and they recognise that they have to do it in a certain way, and that's what they do. But we don't do that because we have different charisms, and so all of that was part of the discussion.
And then we had Taylor Marshall, didn't we? We had a brilliant chat with Taylor, who's just come back from Rome. So I don't know if everyone's seen that, but I mean,
So
it was really natural sort of conversation, wasn't it?
Errol says the YouTube algorithms are not sharing them. I think the best way to keep up and make sure you don't miss out, if you would like to do that, is to not just subscribe, which you can do, but then there's a little bell, isn't there, Mark, which you click and it then notifies you. So every time we upload a video, you get a little notification. So that's probably the best way to do that. And we also had a conversation with Father. I just saw someone wrote, he's not a priest by a long stretch. Anthony from Avoiding Babylon, who's a friend of ours, and he's just lovely. He's such a warm and lovely person, and he joined us and we had a great chat. So there's lots to check out.
Well, he's quite controversial, really, isn't he? He's got this very bulgy personality especially on X, and he just sort of goes after clickbait all the time, winding up the Protestants as much as he possibly can. So I think it was great to have an opportunity. I mean, we've met him, all three of us have met him in real life, and we really, get on well with him. So it was great to have the opportunity to perhaps showcase just how he's quite erudite, isn't he? He's not just one of the lads.
No, he's not. He is. He would say himself, and after that Bug Hall interview, which we talked a little bit about in our conversation, he recognises that he does a lot of that. It's like a persona to some extent, to just, it is work. We love what we do. I'll speak for Anthony. He says he loves what he does, but there is a sense in which you have to do those things that drive forward, and he's sometimes conflicted and kind of, does he have to take anything to confession? So he's the real deal. He's a great guy, and he's not exactly the same as the persona he presents.
I need to say something, if I may. Someone's asked if we'll have Father Iannuzzi on, and I haven't discussed this with either of the two of you, and you know nothing about it. But Father Iannuzzi and I know each other very well. We were both part of a rather odd organization called True Life in God, which I left. And one of the reasons I left it was because the Greek Orthodox mystic, who is at the heart of it, was saying that she was getting messages from God that Pope Francis was his favorite child and had to be held in affectionate respect at all times. And in fact, what was really happening in the church was that Pope Francis was beginning to cause a great deal of disturbance. One of the things that needed to be done was for the clergy and theologians to try and help people who loved the Petrine See manage the level of disturbance that Pope Francis was causing. Now, at the end after his death, I would say that those of us who were critical of Pope Francis were proved right. Hardly anybody would say that he turns out to have been a holy and prophetic pope. Quite the opposite. Father Iannuzzi, however, under the influence of this lady, as one of the people commented, defended him to the hilt. And he and I fell out about that. He's an exorcist, and one of the difficulties is he's one of these clergy who don't appear to be accountable to a bishop or to an order. And when that's the case, without criticizing him personally, people I think have a right to look askance a little at clergy who've gone independent of bishops or orders. And Father Iannuzzi is one of those. So I happen to think he was entirely wrong in his judgment of Pope Francis and in his defense of this particular mystic who's died. Would we have him on now? Only if he came to me and said sorry.
And he'll be joining us next week.
I love it if it popped up in the comment.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dave.
We've just got a few minutes left, so just sorry if we didn't get to all your comments, but as I said throughout the program, and perhaps you've just joined us, we are planning to record live every Tuesday, 7:30 to 8:30 UK time. I know a lot of you are tuning in from different parts of the globe, but London time. We've got a question from Kieran, a friend of ours we met over in Ireland last year, and by the way has a fantastic story to tell himself, so when he's not so busy I hope he will join us. He's Irish, right? Are you planning a treatment in Ireland this year? Well, this year I think not, because there's a few months left, and Gavin and I, and possibly Mark, I don't know, are going over to Pittsburgh for the Catholic Identity Conference at the end of September, and then we're creeping up towards the end of the year then. But it's on the horizon for 2026. So look out. And we hope to get across to Ireland again.
Well, all right. Fine. Let's leave it there.
Mark, do you just want to answer that? We've got a few practical questions coming in. Can you see those there?
Where?
I'm just trying to find. I saw. Oh, there's this one.
Okay. So I'm a bit confused. I am subscribed to you on YouTube. I do. Right. So basically, the situation is if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, then you get access to the member-only content on the YouTube channel, but none of the written stuff that we do. But if you subscribe to the Substack, you get everything. You get all of the videos and you get all of the written content and basically everything just for one flat fee. So the reason for having the two things is obviously some people watch YouTube and they're not interested in reading anything or anything, and some people don't go on to Substack. But if you are a supporter of ours and you want to support us and you're interested in, I mean, the idea really of the website is that we build a community. There's a chat on there. You've also got like church news and everything like that's going on, opinion, all the stuff that Gavin, Katherine and I write for the Catholic Herald and stuff like that. It'll all be on there. So we would really like we'd really like to build a following on Substack if we can. But obviously it makes sense for us to keep a YouTube membership for the people who don't want to do that. They can still watch the members only stuff on YouTube. I hope that clears that up.
Yeah, and thank you. So many of you here joining us have been members and stuck with us for the last little while, some of you for a long while, and thank you for your patience, because we have it's a great thing that we've grown, and we've we have grown a little bit, but we're trying to deal with that personally, but we've expanded in our podcast.
Grown, expanded.
I know, whatever. And so therefore we've made this transition to a new site where we can more easily upload the many articles that we have, and hope that you enjoy those. Hopefully you'll hear our voice. So I write very much like, well, it's me. So you get my voice in my articles and Mark in his. So you get a different approach from each of us. So lots of comments. Thank you to all of you. Thank you, Katherine with a C. Thank you. And to all of you who've commented. And although we're up on the hour now, we're coming back every Tuesday, please God, 7:30 to 8:30 London time, UK time, to have a live like this. And you'll notice it's a bit more casual. it will really be about what you'd like to talk about, what's been going on in the week, and any comments and questions from you. So we look forward to you joining us each week at this time. You're a very nice trio. Thank you, Antonia. That's a really kind comment. So we'll end with that. Unless there's anything more from you, Mark, Gavin?
No, all good. Thanks, everyone. Get on the Substack, catholicunscripted.com. And please do like the video. It really does make a difference if you like the videos and you watch them. That's what drives the algorithm, apparently.
Yeah. Okay. As always, email info@catholicunscripted.com if you have any complications or issues and you want us to help out with those. Otherwise, see you over on the Substack for some exclusive content. Until then, and we'll get back to you soon. I'm trying to look at comments and wrap up. Okay. See you next week. God bless. Bye.
Bye.